What is up, everyone? Chris Manning here from the Locked On Cavs podcast, coming to you after the Cavs just lost to the Chicago Bulls in a interesting Eastern Conference Central Division showdown. We're getting into that by going through our big takeaway, giving out our awards, and talking about some other little Cavsy things on this episode. Evan, play the intro music because I can't.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Before we get into today's show, I want to thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day. Remember, we are free and available on all platforms. That includes YouTube, where we did cross 1,000. It's a celebratory phone shake here from me. We made it. We got more yachts to buy. Got more Teslas to buy. Evan's got more like NFTs to buy or Ethereum or whatever he's into these days. Copies of Pokemon Legends Arceus. Help us get to 2,000.
Yeah, I'm running that side hustle in New Jersey where people are buying copies of Pokemon Legends and leaking everything. Jimmy Longo, well, I will not share anything with you, but I've seen everything and I'm looking forward to it. We'll say that.
But look, help us get to 2,000 as fast as possible by going to subscribe today. Remember, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, go to the show notes and check it out. Again, you've seen my hand, like the butt of my hand a couple of times, just so you know, I'm recording on my phone. A little computer issue with my day job computer, but I am in Tampa Bay, Florida right now. Got a nice little view in the downtown. So this is going to sound a little different. It's going to look a little different. Transparency is key. But Evan, we're here, and how are you?
I'm good. I look like a ghost still in sub-freezing Cleveland, Ohio. I installed LEDs behind my TV to add some nice thematic lighting, and I have it on
Like
Candle
that.
Glow right now.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. I'm doing all right, all things considered, hanging in there. Just 2 thumbs up. I'm not as overly dramatic about some people or how some people are being after this Cavs game. I thought it was a fun game overall. Like, if you're just a basketball fan, I like watching the Bulls play to begin with. They have a lot of good, likable dudes on their team. DeMar DeRozan's most definitely an all-star. You can quibble with me if he's a forward or a guard or whatever, what have you, but he's an all-star full stop. And this is Lauri Markkanen's best game as a Cavalier and probably Jerry Allen's worst game as a Cavalier. Those are some of my early takeaways. But how are you before we get started?
Doing good. I had someone when I was at this work thing that they tell me that it's cold here, and I looked at them very just accusatory because it's not cold here. This is some nice weather. I understand snowbirds now in my old age, in my late 20s. This game was interesting, Evan. This game was interesting because,
for reference, folks, it's 55 degrees right now in Tampa Bay for Chris.
Yeah.
Well, I had a high of 73 and a low of 46.
I had a nice dinner with Alex Super yesterday. I'm doing great. Evan, I think this Cavs game to me comes down to energy. The fact that they've played in a ton of cities in 8 nights. They look tired. I think they also struggled with some of the cross matching. I felt that Mobley on DeRozan early was really interesting, and then it kind of moved away from that as the game went on for both teams, frankly. I think just, DeRozan, I think, as you mentioned, was incredible. Kind of even getting some buckets on Okoro and stuff. I don't think the Cavs did particularly well with some of the speed and some of the from some of the guys from Chicago. This is one of those games where I'm thinking about it more of a big picture sense. And I think if you're a fan of this team, you want them to just win every game and everything. But I almost was going through my head in this one, thinking about the different kinds of players they could theoretically go and look to add. Do they want a more 3-and-D wing? And I was just wondering, okay, if you just plug an actual 3-and-D wing into this rotation that wasn't jetty and wasn't willing to defend and shoot threes, with how much would that raise the floor? And is that potentially more interesting than a ball handler type that we've talked about a lot? I don't know the answer to that. I still probably tend to lean ball handler, but this is one of those games where you look at some of the weaknesses. And frankly, look, they missed Lamar Stevens, who isn't the quickest guy, but a good defender. It just felt like the Bulls kind of had some silencing advantages that were this a playoff series, and I'm gonna, if this were to happen, you would expect JB Bickerstaff to make some adjustments for game 2 and go with something different to try to create some different outcomes here, I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm feeling like. This game certainly had a playoff vibe to it for sure. I just
Mm-hmm.
think with the energy the Cavs are kind of riding in on. I think you made a very smart point of them. This is being their 8th game in 13 nights in a different location. Like they had a quick cup of coffee on Monday in Cleveland before they hit the road for Chicago. They get some well-deserved Thursday, Friday, 2 days off, and then they'll be back at it at home and a 3-game homestand, which is kind of helpful too. We'll talk about this later on, but like JB Bickerstaff hinted the fact that Rajon Rondo will probably be back Saturday, which will be helpful.
Yep.
I have found out Lamar Stevens is kind of being held out for similar reasons, and he'll probably be back Saturday as well. So the Cavs will be technically at full strength. Sans like Ricky Rubio and Colin Sexton at this point, and that's encouraging in itself. You hope that the Cavs can kind of just build some familiarity and momentum, but like, yeah, the Cavs had a lot of good energy going into this game. I think they just kind of came out flat. I think it's still admirable that they're able to battle down the stretch. Like Serena Winters asked JB about this pregame about how the Cavs were down almost like it felt like 50 at one point in the preseason when they played Chicago for the first time. And it's just different to think like how far they've come from this point, and also like the fact that this Cavs team just kind of doesn't lay down and quit. And yeah, I agree. So if this were a playoff series, I think JB would make the proper adjustments to kind of like figure out exploits and mismatches and such too. But I also just think this puts into perspective kind of just how young and inexperienced this Cavs team is right now. And I think they still have a little bit more room to grow. And this is a good learning experience for them overall.
I mean, the Cavs right now are 4th in the East after this game. They're 2 games back of the first place. The Heat are first place. Now it tells you how much influx this is. The Bulls are a half game behind them. So the Cavs are a game and a half behind Chicago. Philly is a half of a game behind Cleveland in the 5th spot. Joel Embiid, if people didn't see, had like an incredible game.
He had a 50-burger in 27 minutes.
I want to ask 2 things. I'm going to give a take, and I'm going to ask you something. Number one, if I could pick a Cavs playoff opponent, and I can't believe we're talking about this in January, like that's just how the season's gone. I kind of want to see the Philly series. I just want to see like Allen and Mobley against Embiid.
Get back to me on that one once Cleveland plays Philadelphia finally, which is weird. John Michael pointed this out during the broadcast. It's weird to say that the Cavs haven't played the Sixers yet this season, but I'm trying to think of who I'd prefer. I think like Miami would be fun. I think I would take a 7-game series with Chicago. Somehow, some way, let's say like the Bucks kind of jump in, like it's Cleveland, Milwaukee. I think the Mobley Giannis matchup for a 7-game series would be a lot of fun too. Like there's interesting opponents. I want to see how Allen handles Joel Embiid because again, I firmly want to say this is probably his worst game as a Cav tonight. Like Nikola Vucevic just really took advantage of the fact that Allen just is not comfortable defending in space.
Yeah, and I think it's like interesting because Allen switches okay, and he does. I think they do a lot of work to have him defend wings in space, but it's like Vucevic is this weird kind of guy where like he pump fakes a lot, and Allen bit on those a ton in this game. Here's Evan, my question. Cavs are again 4th in the East right now. They've beaten the Nets this week, and they beat the Bulls, both teams that are not at full strength, right? The Nets obviously without Kevin Durant, and the Bulls didn't have Lonzo and Zach LaVine. Are the Cavs like to you more of in that top 4, or are they kind of in that top 6? Are they a top 8 team? Like, how do you feel about them as we sit right now, just a little bit past the halfway point?
Well, I talked to Mac Robinson about this front of the pod. Listen to the show if you haven't, but I was on the radio. He asked me the same question. I think the Cavs are a top 6 team, and I don't think they need to be fixated on necessarily like gunning for those top 2 or 3 spots. I think they should be comfortable with trying to widen this gap with Charlotte as much as possible for the 6th seed so that they can comfortably say, we're not playing in the play-in tournament. We have clinched a home playoff, or not a home playoff series, but we have clinched a playoff series. And if it started today, I think they would play Brooklyn in the first round if that's the case. So
today would be Philly. It'd be Philly right now.
Philly's the 3 seed?
No, so the Cavs are 4th.
No, I'm saying if let's say Cleveland is a 6th seed in this scenario, like I think they're a top 6 team. Okay, so if they're fluctuating between that, I don't think they're a play-in caliber team. I think they are a playoff team. I just don't think they're the cream of the crop, which is Milwaukee, Brooklyn, Miami, depending on how you feel about them, and then Chicago as well. And then Philly, I think, is like a fringe team with Cleveland right on the outside. But like Philly has clearly has Joel Embiid. Like they're a peg above Cleveland.
Yeah, I think that's probably right in practice. I think net rating and like some of the numbers would lead you to think the Cavs are above. Like they've had like one of the top 5 net ratings in the league for like most of this year, and that means something.
It
It's
does.
more of the thing. I think I want to see it, you know, and I think there are some playoff questions about what is kind of going on with them. Like I want to see how this team would look in a playoff series. I want with Darius Garland having to do so much of the ball handling, depending on how many minutes Rondo plays and stuff. But this is interesting. They'll play the Thunder again on Saturday, and like we'll get more of these interesting matchups down the line. Like they play Charlotte in like a couple weeks, and that game to me will be really interesting. But
That's a big game. IMHO. Is it raining in Tampa right now?
I I I have absolutely no idea what is going on.
Well, Chris, while you figure that out, I'm gonna give you a quick mute. See, no, I don't know if I can do that.
You should. I would if you can, and we'll come back. I mean, you got an ad read to do
I
because
do,
there's
I do, and I'd
something
like to
going
give
on
you
in
a
the
quick
harbor.
word from today's sponsor, BetOnline. BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. New year and a new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use your promo code Locked On to get started and enjoy the simple, soothing sounds of Chris's rainfall while you sign up. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC right to your favorite Vegas casino games, do not wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Moving rooms. Can't do that.
Oh, nice. I have 2 rooms in my hotel room, Flex.
Thank you. Well, here's the problem: the lighting isn't as good in these rooms. We're gonna figure this out. It sounded like someone was like demolishing a car in the background over there. That wasn't good. So we'll figure it out. But Evan, let's get into awards. I think my MVP is Lowry Marketing for shooting as well as he has all year, playing with confidence. Look like he got a crisp new haircut as well.
Maybe just coming back to Chicago does that for him. I still think it's funny because I did that feature on Lowry and he didn't pay for movers. He just moved all his stuff himself from Chicago to Cleveland.
I respect the man. Like you know how like Chad Ochocinco had like
Only at
fake
McDonald's.
jewelry.
Oh, there's
Well,
only
he didn't buy like real. His earrings were from like Claire's. Like he didn't buy like real diamonds. He's like, I want to be rich. Like I respect that.
No, I respect it too, man. And no, I think Lowry's an excellent pick too. Like he had a fresh haircut. He was really fresh this game. He was arguably the most consistent player for the Cavs tonight, which is weird to think. He was the best 3-point shooter, which again is weird to think and say. But this was his best game as a Cavalier. Do you agree?
I do. I look at him, and I think he played with confidence. I think he
Mm-hmm.
played with energy. I think his shot looked really confident. I felt like they were getting him in rhythm. We've talked about it a little bit, and I don't totally buy it as an excuse. And excuse is maybe the wrong word, but I don't think like all of his shot making struggles are really like about where the ball is being placed and things. I think there's a little bit of just like he's just kind of an average shooter. I thought like he just was very much in fluid motion in this game. Like he was getting the ball
Mm-hmm.
and firing, and he looked good. And maybe it's a little bit of a revenge thing. Like there's always like the Wiggins plays well in Cleveland and now against the Wolves thing. Like maybe there's just some energy there with Lowry in a way that maybe he won't like externalize with the media or whatever. But like
Oh
I
yeah, if you
felt
asked him, hey, were you like motivated to kind of show the Bulls they
yeah
were wrong? He'll say no because he was asked that already when Cleveland played
yeah
Chicago and Cleveland.
he's not that kind of guy to like I think say that stuff. But like there's probably
Yeah,
something maybe deep down just kind of I think that's kind of a normal human thing. I felt he just looked in the flow. And I think if it's not him, it's like Darius Garland are the MVP
Yep.
picks, right? Like it's one of those 2
Yeah.
guys. I don't think anyone else like Mobley had some really good stuff. I don't, and so he's like, and he's always kind of in the running. I don't feel like anyone else was like really at that level of like playing a particularly
No.
good game.
No, I mean, Isaac played some good defense at times. I think DeMar DeRozan got the better of him. Kevin Love deserves a shout just with 13 points off the bench. Jetty Osman's shooting acumen, I wish that could come back so we could give him some MVP honors, but we're in a Jetty Valley, folks, so it's going to be bumpy for a while, methinks. But yeah, Darius is the other pick.
Evan, I'm
What?
putting this on the record now. I need you to remind me before we record on Friday to check the Rubio, the post Rubio. I need to look at the Osman's number since Rubio's gotten hurt.
I'm sure they're going to be really
Text.
such a joyful thing to look at.
The numbers will be bleak, I'm sure. But Evan, what's your do you have another MVP? Is there someone we didn't talk about?
No, it's Darius. I mean, I think
Okay.
the only concerning thing is he played 40 minutes tonight. I believe Chris Fedor asked about it, and JB said it's a part of the team's like game plan is to have lean on Darius so heavily. So we'll see how this ends up because like they have his diet and his training, everything else like regimented and like laid out and like planned. So like he's probably going to be playing big minutes like this down the stretch, especially if the Cavs want to make a serious playoff push. But Darius was good. He's been consistently great lately. I mean, 20 and 12. I think he's averaging 20 and 10 in January, which is pretty impressive in itself. Like he's been really good.
All right, moving on. My stat of the night. You mentioned J.D. Osman. You mentioned Kevin Love. They're my stat of the night. 1 of 8 combined for them from 3. That's just not at the level you need them, frankly, I think, to be at. I think particularly in a game like this, where it kind of became a little more open and it was very offensive oriented, and the Cavs were having to trade buckets. They weren't in the game late. But if you're going to need to use them to kind of bridge your gap to your closing lineup, which is a more defensive lineup, and you need points to kind of make it closer, like Garland and Okoro and Mobley and Allen and Lowry can kind of muck up enough. Like it's the recipe we saw against the Nets. It's get there late and make it ugly and figure it out. I think you look at that game and you look at this performance and it's like, okay, those two guys are so key to what the bench is on this team and they don't shoot well. And it's like, I don't really know how, like, I'm not surprised that they lost in the way they did because those two guys ultimately didn't shoot that well.
No, I'm not surprised either at the end of the day. Like, I really am curious to see what Jetty's numbers look like and even Kevin's numbers look like with Rubio now gone because those two really did
Kevin
thrive.
looks tired. And, like, I think everyone looks tired, but Kevin looks, like, fatigued. And, like, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think it's also suboptimal. The Cavs went 15 of 22 from the 3 free throw line. I mean, that's might have narrowed the gap a little bit more. And granted, Cleveland lost by 13 in this one. So if the Cleveland made all their free throws, they'd lose by 6 in this one instead. But I think that's a fair statistic. I think a lot of it is not having Rondo out there. Like, no disrespect to Brandon Goodwin, but Brandon Goodwin just doesn't have the same juice like Rondo or Rubio provides, obviously. And
I will say, I like the speed. I like the speed. He makes me like. He makes
There's
me
something
wonder
there.
what Colin Sexton. I wonder if Colin Sexton provides that speed element. I think that's like an underrated thing to talk about Colin Sexton. But we'll talk about him next July when he is theoretically healthy and signs a new contract.
Yeah, whether it's with the Cavs or not. And my stat of the night pick is the fact that Cleveland was outscored 58-46 in the paint. That is pretty abnormal for this Cavs team. They're a team that prides themselves on the rim and paint defense and the fact that they kind of want to dominate from the inside out. I bet you, like we talked about JB making adjustments. I think this is like one of the biggest things he'd point his finger at and just kind of say, like, hey, this is unacceptable. We need to do better than this. The turnovers weren't as bad. I mean, 15 for Cleveland, 10 for Chicago, but like the points, the paint, like that's probably drove JV of a wall throughout this game. It's definitely going to be something they talk about and they break down film.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Okay, Evan, play of the night. Mine is late in I think third quarter. Darius Garland basically gets triple teamed and kind of does that little jump pass to Isaac Okoro cuts and then finishes at the rim through a contest from Nikola Vucevic. Kind of an up and down Okoro game. A little bit of a couple fouls on DeRozan. Had a really bad turnover late where he just kind of threw the pass before he looked to see if a defender was there when he was trying to feed Markkanen for a 3. But this finish for him was like this is the kind of stuff you need from him in these kind of games. This is where the game was close, so Cavs kind of made that late comeback, and then it kind of petered out. But this was just like a really skilled finish, and obviously from Darius, another really, really good pass. I feel like lately we're seeing him try to put more like spice on his passes, a little more English on them, because he just is. You can feel. I think he's feeling it, and like this is one of those ones where like he didn't get too close to the sun. Like he threw it really, really perfectly.
No, it was a good play. I think we're thinking the same one. It's like a bread and butter play for Cleveland at this point where like Isaac cuts along the baseline and Darius or whoever's at the top of the key finds him and just gives it to him because defenses ignore Okoro on the perimeter still, which is like understandable. He's not the greatest 3-point shooter, but my play of the night pick is just Larry Markkanen hitting a 3-pointer with 4:44 left, and he brought the game within 2 points, and then Okoro was able to hit 1 of 2 free throws after that to bring it in 1 point. And that's just kind of where it fell apart from Cleveland for there. But like that was a key play. That was a really good read on Darius's part. My play would have been if Markkanen made a three is when Mobley was in the low block and he kicks it out to Markkanen at the top of the perimeter and he just like hits that three. I'm like, that is such a pretty pass. And I'm so upset Larry Markkanen didn't make that 3-pointer. But Markkanen making that fast break three, just kind of keeping the Cavs in it. Like I said, it's down ruled. This Cavs team keeps doing that. And that's just my play of the night pick.
I think shutting on Mobley's passing is something we probably should have touched on because I felt in this game his passing when he got doubled was really, really decisive and good. And he throws very hard passes. Like it's a good development.
Yeah, it's some of the stuff he saw at USC, some of the stuff that's really popped at the beginning of the season. I want to see what it looks like once he has a little bit more NBA conditioning and seasoning under him. I'm definitely interested to see where it goes from here, but like that playmaking aspect is something that's really popped, and just like I was just like, oh, that was such a pretty pass, and Larry Markkanen didn't finish it, and I was just like, dang. But yeah, I don't know. This is a fun game in the grand scheme of things. Like I know people are like, I'm gonna have a stroke because of how poorly the Cavs played. Like again, they're tired. I think they need a few days off. They'll probably come out juice against Oklahoma City. Hopefully they come out and get a good win and they just keep building good momentum. Like they're not going to win every single game. They weren't going to go, like you said, like back when they lost like their first couple games, like, well, they weren't going to go 70 or like 80-2 or something like that. They're not going to go 79-3, etc. Like they're going to lose games, but they're fun. And this is a fun game.
Yeah, this was one of those games where it's like a little bit of a schedule thing. I think the Bulls, just to credit them, played really, really well. DeRozan is freaking awesome, and they're down guys too. Like everyone's kind of just like this is when you get into the NBA season and everyone has excuses about how things can go wrong, and we should empathize. I think with the players. I think we should empathize with how crazy things can get, especially with the Cavs aren't dealing with COVID right now, but like the world we're living in is still a little bit bonkers. And kudos to the Cavs for I think just kind of making the most of the whole thing, and at least like I mean again, like the stretch they're on right now, this West Coast trip they just came off of, beating the Nets on Monday and the way they did, like they're still like outperforming expectations.
Oh, for sure. Like they're playing so well, and like that's why I can't be too mad. Like they played hard, and I just think maybe the Cavs are just ran out of gas and one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. Sure, they're down Lonzo and Levine, but like they still have DeMar DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic and Alex Caruso and Dosunmu.
Yeah, after the break, Evan, I want to talk about Caruso and Kevin Love for a sec. I just have something I want to shout out on the top of my head. So if you're listening on audio, we'll be right back. And if you're on YouTube, we're just going to keep going. Evan, I found one of the cross matches that made me giggle the most was Alex Caruso just like guarding Kevin Love, and it like was fine for the Bulls because Alex Caruso freaking rocks.
Yeah, I know a lot of people were questioning Billy Donovan putting Alex Caruso on Kevin Love, and my only counterpoint to that is the Bulls were playing another point guard at the 4 for quite a while this season after Pat Williams went down. And I just think it's the Bulls really did counter the Cavs going big well. Chicago just went small, and they played it very effectively, and it just
very
worked
very fast,
very fast. And like this is the medicine to Cleveland playing their like quote unquote big ass lineup is going small and playing fast. You can kind of really get past it. Like people are already kind of pointing it out quietly, like, oh, the Cavs are kind of getting killed off the fast break whenever they have like Markkanen, Mobley, and Allen on the floor, Markkanen, Love, and Allen, etc. on the floor at the same time. Like, yeah, defensively, like in a half court situation, it's pretty easy for the Cavs to defend the paint when you have 3 7-footers on the floor, and you can add size to defend shooters as well. But like in fast break scenarios, it sometimes is not ideal, especially when then you're facing like Garland, Okoro, etc., getting in foul trouble. But it's an interesting development for sure. Like you and I talked about at the top, if this was a playoff series, I'd be very interested to see how JB adjusts things just to kind of, tinker a little bit, because he is a coach who is not afraid to try different things to see if it works.
Yeah. All right, I've been listening to 2 things, then we'll get out of here. Number one, we've said it enough. We don't need to get into it anymore. I think rest will do this team a lot of good. I think the energy level on Saturday, I would suspect it looks better. We'll see how it looks. Secondly, you mentioned it at the top. We should talk about it now. Rajon Rondo looks like he's going to be back on Saturday. He did practice with the Canton Charge on what's today, Wednesday? Yes, it looks like he practiced with the Canton Charge on Wednesday. they had a little video of him talking after practice, which I found sort of funny because I just imagined they were Rondo like agreeing to do that. It was just like a funny experience. Knowing Rondo's cantankerous relationship with having to talk about anything in a public way.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Did you
would
watch the
suspect.
video of Rondo like checking in from
I
practice?
saw it. And the body
Shouts
language
to
was just like
in charge PR guy Sean Wyatt for taking the video, but it was so goofy. It felt like he was like a hostage video.
Rondo definitely had no like desire to be in that video. I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, here's where I think it gets interesting because Rondo's going to play. So here we go: Garland, Okoro, and there's frankly I don't want to discuss it. There's no reason to think Okoro shouldn't start over Steven. That's blasphemy to me. Markkanen, Mobley, and Allen is the 5. So then we're going to go Rondo. We're gonna go Kevin Love, Jetty Osman, and then you getting into, Lamar, Dylan Windler, Brandon Goodwin, Dean Wade's kind of become a forgotten man now, and I think he's probably deserving of a look again at some point, and maybe if an injury happens, he'll get his chance. But if you could pick, if Evan Dammarell, gets to come down from his stage, from
Perched in the
from
press
his,
box.
there we go. You get brought down like out of the rafters, like the whole thing.
Unwillingly, I'm just
JB's
stop. Stop.
Yeah. The flames kick on the jumbotron and the queue, and you ascend from the heavens of the banners. Who is in your rotation, and how many deep do you want to go?
Well, JB says he likes to go 10 deep. That's a lie. He goes 8 or 9 deep. So,
that's right. That's exactly that's a good way to start this. I would go 10, and I would play both Windler and I would go the 5 starters: Rondo, Love, Jetty, Windler,
and then maybe
Lamar.
Lamar. Then if you want to give Wade some minutes, if somebody's shot's not falling, or if you need some sudden 3-point shooting, or if you just want an extra body out there, maybe you give away those 11th man minutes. But in terms of like dichotomy, I'd give Lamar maybe more minutes than Windler, obviously. Then maybe he eats the Jetty's minutes as well, because Jetty's shot has completely abandoned him.
Jetty's about to be back
am
in that
fascinated
15-minute
to see
zone
this
for sure.
with Chris Manning. Like, I was restless on a flight from Tampa to Cleveland or Baltimore or whatever, and I had to research the Rondo, the on-off numbers with and without Rubio.
I hate flying. That's a little fun fact. I absolutely think flying sucks, and it's a terrible.
I do too. It's so stressful.
Really stresses me out, especially just like especially like there's nothing about it that's enjoyable. Give me like a nice train, like give me like a nice just something else. Evan. So Osman played 17 minutes against the Bulls. That seems like it's going to be like the norm going forward. And Dylan Windler played 17 as well. Dylan Windler is showing me enough where I'm the kombucha.
Windler plays tough. Yeah, Windler plays tough. He isn't afraid to take threes.
The kombucha girl, unbelievable. Set that up the whole time. Have had this hit in the back of my head. You don't even react. Unbelievable.
It's been a day, so
I know.
Oh, you back girl. I always thought you were sipping a Bud Light, not kombucha. I mean, that's everyone's reaction when you drink kombucha.
But when there's like doing enough where I'm just like, I just want to see it, and I feel like he's done enough where like I feel like he's earned minutes, and like earned is a strong word. Like this is the highest level of professional basketball. Like nothing is guaranteed unless you're like a certain caliber guy, and he's not in that caliber guy.
Golden opportunity to say nothing is given, everything is earned. How do you call yourselves? Next, you're going to tell me the Cavs won the championship in 2017.
He rolls up his sleeves and goes to work every day like the rest of us, Evan.
Yeah.
Roll up them sleeves. But look, I would like to see Windler play, and I would like to see Lamar play. I think both those guys have played well enough the last 2 weeks. Like, I want to see those dudes play. And I just think like the Cavs, with Garland playing a lot of minutes, with Evan Mobley playing a lot of minutes, like I think eventually they run the risk of running the tires off these guys, and if this can take some of the tread off, and if Rondo can take some of the tread off of Darius's tires, that to me is a good thing for the long run of the season.
No, absolutely, because I really don't think it's tenable for the Cavs to play Darius Garland 40-plus minutes a night every night going forward. Like, they need to give him some nights where he is like low 30s. That's ideal. But yeah, Windler's played really hard. I think JB is a coach where he'll reward players for just playing hard and making like winning basketball plays, and Windler seems to make a couple of those every now and then on a night. So reward is strong play as of late. I think Lamar is a pretty clear option in the rotation. I think he's one of JB's guys overall. Like JB's just really been one of Lamar's biggest advocates. More about that on Friday. And we will just kind of see what's going to happen. But yeah, I think like if the Cavs, so JB, if he goes 8 or 9 deep, it's going to be Rondo, Stevens, Osman, Love off the bench. Probably not
if
in
it's
that
9,
order.
okay.
I think Windler gets
Yeah.
phased out and Stevens gets those minutes instead.
Yeah, if it's 9 instead of 10, yeah, I would agree, and I would suspect. I want to see how Rondo's deployed. We've only seen it obviously just a little bit because of his hamstring injury. I want to see how he's deployed, and I'd be curious to see how JBL if the closing lineup changes, just because I think there's probably a temptation to put another ball handler on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would do that, just because of some of the other benefits I think you get from those other guys, but I could see him thinking about it. If it comes down to those kind of moments.
It's really clear the Cavs do need another ball handler on this roster and some type of creation or shot creation from the 2-3 spot. That's just that's my final take of the night. Like, it's become clear during this road trip. It became really clear against Chicago that they are missing Colin Sexton and Ricky Rubio.
They're trying to create some of it with like having Darius come off screen and have a Okoro passing the top of the key and things, and Allen's passing and stuff, but it's not quite the same as just like having another guy who can generally bring up the ball and initiate some stuff. Okay, that is going to be it. Thank you for making it through this very weird episode of Locked On Cavs. Again, I'm on the road, had that computer snafu, recording on my phone. So it might sound a little different. The video might look a little different if you're watching on YouTube. Please go subscribe. It's a little off, but we'll be back to normal on Friday. We're going to record sometime during the day on Friday, perhaps do it live on YouTube so you can come in and ask us questions and things. But Evan, why don't you take us out here as we wrap up the Locked On Cavs Tampa Bay edition?
The Tampa Bay edition. Thank you everyone for making Locked On Cavs your first listen of the day. We always appreciate it. Like, just always appreciate it. And if you need to make anything else your second listen of the day, check out Locked On Bets, check out Locked On Browns, check out Locked On Guardians, check out anything that you're interested in. I'm curious to see what Locked On Browns has to say after Baker's surgery and the odd video he posted of him in the sling. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening. Make some time for yourself. Your mental health matters. It's always okay to say you're not okay, and just keep on keeping on. See you Friday.